Identity is made up of many traits. For example, race, ethnicity, gender, class, age, sexuality, and physical ability. Intersectionality is about acknowledging how these traits shape our experiences of privilege, power, oppression, and disadvantage. So why is intersectionality important to your career as a social worker? Let's take a look. Our identities are defined in part by our context. For example, power structures and cultural interpretations. Critical race theory teaches us that these power structures and cultural interpretations exist in service of dominant identities. In North America, these dominant groups typically are white, male, heterosexual, and Christian. The dominance of the white identity, for example, has created and sustained structural racism towards people of color. This structural racism is what continues to make being black in North America such an oppressive experience today. But let's say you are black, but also have a disability. Because ableism is so commonplace, this will add to the oppression you experience. If you also happen to be wealthy, this would convey some privilege. So multiple identities can coexist and conflict with one another. One experience of oppression doesn't necessarily cancel out another experience of privilege. For example, I identify as a person of color, a gay male, and someone with a disability. Intersectionality acknowledges that these identities are the result of inherent factors such as biology, but also personal choice and social construction. To explain, I was raised in Australia, a culture that is also dominated by the white identity. My Middle Eastern appearance sometimes led to me experiencing microaggressions, such as racial slurs. People who used these slurs were acting in service of the context, which defined Middle Easterners as inferior and as outsiders. Prior to 1975, the Australian government limited immigration of all non-British people to the country. This was under what was then called the White Australia policy. Now, this policy was eventually replaced by multiculturalism, but a common social expectation that remained was that all migrants should still assimilate. If you didn't, you could experience some form of social punishment. Say you had an accent or you practiced a religion such as Islam. This could lead to you being mocked or marginalized. Racism wasn't officially endorsed, but it was still socialized. It is through such oppressive practices that white people have been able to maintain their institutional and economic power. So in this context, I experienced racism, but I also experienced heterosexism and ableism. From early on in my life, I encountered gender scripts, and these scripts defined the way males were expected to think and to behave. According to these scripts, if you were too emotional or empathetic, or if you used too many gestures or had a lisp, you were not a male. You would be excluded on the basis of people perceiving you to be too much of a sissy or too gay. Today, we would refer to this as toxic masculinity. As someone who is neurodiverse and gay, I struggled to follow these scripts, and I was socially punished for it. Likewise, due to my disability, I struggled in school, and I had difficulty making friends. But to have asked for help would have been to go against this code of self-sufficient masculinity. This code has its roots in the cultural belief that society is an equal playing field. Of course, that playing field is not equal, and not everyone has the resources they need to succeed on their own. But let's suppose for a moment I had asked for help at school. Gaining access to a teacher's aid or additional tutoring wasn't always available or affordable. The lack of access to such supports isn't accidental. Once again, accommodating people with minority identities simply doesn't serve the interests of the dominant identities. Growing up in Australia, my race, sexuality, and disability made me a target. But at the same time, it could be argued that my maleness made me an agent. Being a male in a male-dominated society meant I had certain advantages over females. For example, I have never had to work particularly hard to maintain a gender-normative appearance. Statistically, I have a better chance of securing higher pay and a managerial role. Other facets of my identity have granted me power and privilege. As someone with lighter skin, I enjoy skin privilege and can sometimes pass as an honorary white. As someone who is cisgender, I can use public facilities without fear of being intimidated or attacked. As a member of the middle class, I enjoy privileges such as access to tertiary education. So why is being aware of all of this important to social work? When we use an intersectional lens, we gain a more complex and nuanced understanding of both our own and our clients' lives. Intersectionality helps us to connect the dots, to see how wider structural and cultural forces contribute to social oppression and disadvantage. Engaging in this kind of critical reflection is consistent with social work ethics. It is also a necessary step towards creating an anti-oppressive practice. If you enjoyed this video, check out my blog post or any of the other links listed below, and please remember to like, hit the bell icon, and subscribe.